Funding for Shaperless is provided by
Squarespace, the sponsor of today's video.
Oh boy, it's time for the third Cases in Ace Attorney. I'm so excited. For those of you who don't know, there's kind of been this recurring pattern a lot of fans have noticed in the Ace Attorney series, where a game's third case generally tends to be the weakest or most infamous one. There's a variety of factors that can go into third case syndrome, but I think the main reason it happens so often is because usually this case doesn't really advance the plot. The first case is crucial as your introduction to the whole game. The second case is crucial as your introduction to the prosecutor and detective. And the fourth case is either the build up to the final case, or it is the final case. So what does that leave the third case? Oh, just throw some goofy, unrelated, one-off misadventure. The kids will love it. They did not love it. Some of the third cases in this series are absolutely abysmal, infamous slogs. But I have to say, while I do get where the negative reputation of this group of cases came from, I tallied the numbers up, and I think more than half of these third cases are good, actually. Like, I'll give you the bottom 5 on this ranking, but the top 6 I actually like. But how can this be true? I don't know, I'll tell you. But first we gotta get through all the dog shit, so let's get started already.
Disappointment in the game of life. Decisions. Do I go with the cliche answer and say the circus pedophile case is the worst one? Or do I go with the newer punching bag on the block and give this bottom spot to the Blue Badger bullshit theme park misadventure? I would say it was a close race, but it's not. I'm sorry, Turnabout Big Top earned its infamous reputation for good reason. I'm not about to claim this case is some misunderstood masterpiece, or even a mixed bag with plenty of good elements. There are certainly some decent elements at play here, but they are drowning in a sea of sheer awfulness. Let's just get this one out of the way. Pedophiles. Regina Berry is the belle of the ball at this circus. She's 16 and involved in a love triangle with the 21-year-old Max Galactica and the 31-year-old Ben. Oh, actually, excuse me, it's Ben's puppet Trillo who's in love with her, so that makes it okay, actually. This case only gets worse the more I play it. It's unbearably icky, and there's just so much time dedicated to this love triangle on the first day of trial. Hell, even Phoenix and the judge start crushing on her at various points. It's like, yeah, lower age of consent in Japan, yeah. But here's the thing, you gotta account for that when you're localizing it into English. Just make her 18 and it's... okay, still kinda creepy, but not illegal at least. Wouldn't it be great if this was the only problem with the case? Oh boy, it's Mo the Clown. Oh boy, I can't wait to press his statements. Oh wait, you can't do that because he's really annoying and he says bad jokes, and you get penalized for that. Bro, I'm just trying to solve a murder here. Why are you holding me responsible for what this f***ass clown does? It's a rare case of the gameplay being equally as insufferable as the writing. Like, normally when the series has terrible writing, you can at least count on the gameplay to be standard and inoffensive. Not the case in Turnabout Big Top, however. God, is he insufferable. He has a bit of an arc on the last day where he finally starts to be responsible and think about what's best for Regina a bit. But he's so fucking annoying before then. Oh my god. At one point he asks, why does everyone cry when they eat Mexican pizza? And the answer is, because they are in the cafe teary-eye. What? What the f does that mean? How is that related to Mexican pizza? Guys, I'm starting to think this is a bad case. The crazy thing is, when you get down to it, the actual murder is pretty creative and interesting. That final day when you cross-examine Acro, free of the dumb clown gimmicks and pedophilia, was actually pretty decent. I like seeing how a wheelchair user could commit a murder from his 3-story window, and his motivation and backstory are legit pretty sad. I'm not exactly sympathetic to him with the whole wanting to murder a child thing, but he's a pretty decent culprit, and unraveling his plan, especially figuring out where the bust is the slightest of lights at the end of this miserable tunnel. That's the thing about this case. It's just miserable. The characters are so bitter and they all just hate each other. Aside from Mo, who's just doing his dumb jokes in the corner, and Regina, who doesn't even know what planet she's on. Max is an obnoxious showboat who everyone despises. Ben and Trillo are incredibly horrible. Hell, I don't even know where to start with them. And Acro just gets consumed by this horrible grudge against someone who very clearly doesn't know how the world works through no fault of her own. It's like, do any of these guys even like each other? Is there any camaraderie or positive feelings in this circus, aside from people just lusting over the 16-year-old? It's a case where it feels like no one wants to be there, least of all you. It's just a slog talking to the most obnoxious, creepy characters with the most annoying music playing. And oh, you can't press most statements, but you gotta press this specific statement, and then you gotta press this other one. But don't press this one or you'll get a penalty because f*** you, welcome to Turnabout Big Time. No amount of West Clownadelphia or accusing the judge of hiding the murder weapon will save this case from how unforgivably awful it is. Is it the worst case in the series? I'll get back to you on that, but it's certainly the worst third case, in spite of it having some funny moments and a few decent elements at the very end. Plus, I'll give it this. Turnabout Big Top is not boring. Far from it, in fact. I'm never gonna forget this case for the rest of my life. Yay?
Exhibit A, Woody was kidnapped.
You know, the first time I played the Kidnapped Turnabout, I didn't get the hate. I mean, I didn't like it, but the way people talk about this case as if it's the most abysmal one in the entire series, I don't know, I was kind of expecting worse. I mean, at least the setting is creative and cool, being at this amusement park with a Wild West area and a haunted house. That's something, right? And we get to meet Kay Faraday for the first time. A very fun character who's solidly introduced here. We also meet Shilong Lang, who, I mean, I don't love him, but he's fine, I don't know. I was ready to rank this case a little higher than most people do, but then I replayed it, and I started to realize that I just kinda can't stand it. Suddenly it occurred to me, hey, having a cool setting doesn't mean shit if you don't do anything with it. Why should this awesome theme park setting revolve around rides and more than 2 attractions, when instead the mystery could revolve entirely around Blue Badger costumes? Don't you love the Blue Badger? Don't you want to spend hours of your life familiarizing yourself with the Blue Badger lore in order to determine which of these dumbass kidnappers was wearing which costume? What a great mystery. And yeah, Kay is fun, but you know who's not fun? Every other character in this stupid ass case. They inexplicably bring back 2 of my least favorite characters in the entire series. Mike Meekins and Windy Oldbag. One of them I could live with, but 2? Kill me. You're supposed to be motivated to solve this mystery in order to prove Mike Meekins innocent. As if anyone would ever care about doing that. Even Edgeworth literally says he doesn't particularly care what happens to Meekins. Like, yeah, he gets it. If they needed a cop character to get accused of murder in this Wild West area, maybe you could have brought back, oh, I don't know, the Wild West themed officer Jake Marshall, who debuted in the same case as Meekins? Hello? Fortunately, neither of these clowns are in this case for too long. Unfortunately, neither is Emma, whose inclusion is entirely pointless, outside of just letting you use luminol testing. As if there wasn't any other character who could provide that for you. Nope, she's the only one. Okay, this case uses returning characters horribly, but they make up for it by having some of the absolute worst brand new characters in the whole series. Lauren Pops is just kind of an annoying idiot. Ernest Amano is an asshole who turns on you for an entirely nonsensical reason. And Lance... Ah, man, have I seen way more than my fair share of Lance Amano hate in my time. He's commonly referred to as one of the worst culprits and characters in the entire series. And like, yeah, but here's the thing. He's an unlikable coward who throws his girlfriend under the bus as a murder suspect and kidnaps himself in order to get ransom money out of his father to pay off his debts. I should despise this sniveling little weasel. But here's the real kicker. I don't care about him because he's just boring. He doesn't have any fun, hateable animations. I can't really get a read on his personality like I at least can for Lauren and Ernest. Like, Roger Rettens is hateable, for instance. But that guy has actual personality, and you love to hate him. Here, Lance is a scumbag, and he has 0 personality. The actual worst of both worlds. The case is also so poorly paced. After Lance stumbles onto the screen in the middle of your investigation, you basically unravel the whole mystery through 6 straight cross-examinations with Lauren, Lance, and Lang. It's agonizing. Such a poorly laid out and amateurish way to present this mystery. And then the case ends with an investigation of the haunted house, and after you investigate a little bit, that's it. Lance just folds. You don't even have a final cross-examination with him or anything. How hard would it have been to just put this investigation segment in the middle of the 6 cross-examinations? Genuinely, who wrote this? Also, did I say an investigation of the haunted house? Silly me. I meant an investigation of a recreation, since Lance's father buys the haunted house in order to prevent you from investigating it and having his son found guilty. Well, if he's such a loving father who doesn't mind obstructing justice for the sake of his son like this, why did his son feel the need to stage a fake kidnapping? Clearly, your dad would have just given you the money if you had just asked. This case is a real masterclass in not making you give a shit in the slightest. I don't care about Mike Meekins. I don't care about Lauren and her estranged relationship with her father. I don't even care enough about Lance to hate him. What a waste of my time. The only reason I'm putting it above Big Top is because the setting is marginally more fun and because there's no pedophiles in this one. I don't really know what the consensus on this one is, but me personally, I just can't get into the rite of turnabout. It is so damn boring to me, and it really shouldn't be. This is your grand reunion with Maya, her first appearance in the series since Trials and Tribulations. Or actually, I guess since the Leighton crossover, but shh. It's also a chance to further flesh out and explore this new kingdom of Kurine, and set up all the characters and plot threads that are gonna get paid off in the game's finale case. All of that stuff, the world building and putting the pieces in place for Turnabout Revolution, that's great and really interesting on replay. It's just the actual case itself is really boring. Oh wow, you won't believe it. Maya got accused of murder again. I don't know why we needed to do this a 4th time. Instead of the stakes feeling super high, it's more of a really again moment. And the murder itself, or sorry, the 2 murders themselves, I honestly forgot there was a second one, aren't particularly interesting to unravel. That is, until the very end. Okay, this is actually pretty different and cool. Turns out the second murder was actually committed accidentally by the wife of the first victim. And in order to get her off the hook, the victim killed himself and then framed Maya for both murders. Bit of a dick move that made it a bit hard to sympathize with him, but okay, that's a neat story. And it's even neater because Maya actually channels this guy in court. He really creeps me out with how flexible he gets with Maya's body, but you know what? That was pretty novel to see. For like 1 testimony, and then I went back to just not really caring all that much. I'm sorry, all the pieces are in place for this to be a really compelling case, but there's just so much holding it back. Mainly, I don't find the new characters that interesting, and the names they give them, Trust in Me, Believe in Me. This is the only case where the Ace Attorney localizers may have gone too far in a few places. I'm supposed to take these guys seriously, right? Sorry I'm not wrapped up in the beautiful relationship of Trust in Me and Believe in Me. Oh wow. Even putting that aside, we hurl some pretty serious accusations at Believe on this last day of court, and she just doesn't appear until the very end after the jig is up. It's really weird. Like, I would assume she's here in the courtroom the whole time, but we never see her react to you accusing her of murder. Very odd choice. And I also just find her gimmick of using her husband's face to talk also very weird. Like, I'm sorry, I'm not getting wrapped up in her grief. I'm just kind of cringing at this. The first day of court is also a bit of a waste of time, even if we do get a fun new character. On my first playthrough, I was honestly convinced this guy was Larry Butts in disguise. Like, that's what he seemed like based on his demeanor. And I knew Larry was in the DLC case, so I thought this was his introduction to the game. Nope, it's a new guy whose amnesia gimmick is pretty pointless. And his name is That's a Rebel. See, because he's a rebel. So that's a rebel. Look, if you're not going to take this seriously, I'm out. This case made me seriously doubt that Spirit of Justice was even capable of telling a story with this much political intrigue and maturity. This game is so lucky Turnabout Revolution won me over in the end, because I just could not take any of this seriously based on not only the character names, but the general tonal whiplash this case provides. Dats is a huge goofball who doesn't paint the rebels as serious people. Trust and Believe are way too silly for their own good, and constantly undermine their more serious moments. Even the last scene of the case where Dirk shows up in the flesh. It's honestly a really cool and dramatically enticing moment. And then Maya chimes in and says, "Hey Nick, What if there was a Steel Samurai show where he fights Dirk, the epic rebel? Sorry, this case just temporarily made me lose all faith that this game could tell a serious story. It's not nearly as dramatically compelling of a case as it wants to be. And on top of that, it's just boring for a lot of long stretches. It's got some neat ideas, but I just couldn't get behind it overall. At least Rafa made for a pretty fun assistant with a very unique tone when talking to Phoenix. I also really enjoyed her in court as the prosecutor. Oh wait, that was Neuda. Why couldn't Rafa have just been the prosecutor of this game? She's actually a good character. Oh well, not a fan of this one. Next. Out of all the cases in the original trilogy, the only one where I straight up did not remember how I felt about it before replaying it was Recipe for Turnabout. I think I liked it the first time I played it, maybe? All I know is on replay, it's just not that great. I saw a lot of complaints about it that I thought I wouldn't fully agree with, but yeah, I kinda do, I'm sorry. Victor Kudo is seriously annoying as balls. Not just because he's the typical perv character who you need to get information out of by showing him Mia in a maid outfit. Alright, but because he's one of those characters who you basically waste the entire first day of court on without making much progress at all. You just gotta deal with his antics as you learn very minimal information to progress the case forward. It's not as bad as Turnabout Corner in that regard with old Wesley, but it's still pretty annoying. And yeah, Gene Armstrong gets on my nerves. Honestly, the fact that he's a pretty bad gay stereotype doesn't annoy me nearly as much as the fact that he's French. Like, genuinely, reading his text boxes really gets old after a while, since they have to convey his French accent through them. I kinda get why people didn't like Bebe from Persona 3 initially now. These two alone are enough to make this case pretty insufferable. But on top of that, the actual murder plan itself and how it's executed isn't all that interesting. Like, staging a fake murder that's identical to the real one just for the sake of establishing a witness doesn't really hit that hard, coming off the sheer insanity of Luke Atmey's plan. I suppose it's worth mentioning that this case really is the odd duck in Trials and Tribulations that doesn't really contribute anything to the overarching story. Even the Luke Atmey case does a great job of subtly setting up aspects of the Fae clan that'll come into play later on. This case was originally written for the previous game, but cut and saved for this one due to a lack of cartridge space. And it kinda shows. I don't think it's fair to harp on this case's irrelevance too much though. I want to judge it on its own merits. The problem is that its own merits are kinda whatever. It's a pretty unengaging mystery with a couple annoying characters. But with that said, there are two people single-handedly keeping this case afloat and elevating it to average status. One of them is my man, Dick Gumshoe. I don't think it's talked about enough how this is one of his best cases by far. His crush on Maggie and extreme dedication to getting her proven innocent is genuinely so sweet. He contributes a lot to the defense here, probably because he's extra motivated to do so. For a Dick Gumshoe stan like me, there really is a lot to love in this case. The other great character in Recipe for Turnabout, I think you saw this one coming, it's Lisa Basil. What an amazing character she is. Just a completely irrelevant lady who works at the victim's company, doesn't get introduced until the second day of investigation, barely does anything, serves face, and leaves. Why did they put so much effort into her design when she barely has any reason to exist? Honestly, I kinda love it. Get behind me, Lisa Basil stans. Okay, but actually though, Furio Tigre is the other cool thing about this case. I don't even know if my love for him is unironic, and I don't want to know. He's just such a stupidly funny character. The fact that he managed to trick everybody in court with a paper badge and a haircut that resembles Phoenix even though no other part of him does. I mean, that's just so funny that I don't even care that it doesn't make sense. Every time Furio Tigre's on screen, you know you're in for a great time. Aside from them, Maggie's still fun, and Viola's kinda cool, I guess. I don't know though, I just found this pretty dull at the end of the day. Certainly not without its moments, but it might be the most obvious black sheep case out of any individual game in the series. I mean, at least with Turnabout Big Top, a lot of people also don't like the first case in Justice for All. Here, it can't be easy being the only not very liked case in your game. But it sure is easy being the most liked website builder. Let's talk some Squarespace, because I need something quality in my life right now. Please, no more Victor Kudo, I beg you. Squarespace is a wonderful online website builder that enables you to create beautiful websites for your business or personal hobby. I adore how easy they make it to showcase your expertise and engage clients with video content on your website. You can make stunning video libraries and even monetize your content by adding a paywall. Perfect for online courses, exclusive tutorials, and premium workshops. If you want to get discovered fast, that's where integrated Squarespace SEO tools come in. Every website is optimized to be indexed with meta descriptions, an auto-generated sitemap, and more, letting you pop up more often on search engines and attract way more customers. Squarespace also offers lots of built-in donation tools. You can create a professional, on-brand website that makes it easy to accept one-time or recurring contributions, and engage your supporters. Use built-in email campaigns and marketing tools to connect with your community and inspire more people to support your cause. Check out squarespace.com/ShaeFrillis for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch, use promo code ShaeFrillis to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain.
Now prepare to serenade.
I'm gonna be honest, you guys, I like Turnabout Serenade. I really do. Does that mean I disagree with every single complaint leveled against this case? Nope. Every problem people have with this case is completely valid. It is absurd to me that nobody ever brings up the fact that the murder weapon was a revolver that can dislocate a grown man's shoulder. And yet we all just go along with the police accusing a 14-year-old boy of not only firing the gun, but carrying this grown man's body up to the stage and then passing out next to him. Are you people insane? See, thematically, this is supposed to tie into the game's overarching story about how flawed the legal system is, giving you justification for Phoenix's efforts to reform it in the next case. You're supposed to get a client whose innocence is blatantly obvious, to really highlight that the law process in this country needs to be changed. That doesn't mean I have to like how stupid it is. It's just kind of unbelievable. I mean, Apollo brings up the fact that Machi is tiny and thus would have poor aim, but somehow nobody ever brings up the fact that this gun, which Apollo says would break every bone in the judge's body if he tried to fire it, gave this little boy no injuries whatsoever. I could probably buy this insane lack of logic if the killer was a Damon Gant type who had considerable influence over the police, but instead it's just this one detective who isn't said to have any of that sort of control. Penis Hair Man is one of Clavier Gavin's bandmates, so you'd think he would have a strong reaction to finding out that this guy he worked with for so long is a killer. Nope! The biggest problem with Clavier Gavin as a prosecutor is that he is just so chill in almost every situation in court, including this one that should emotionally affect him a bit. This case actually shows off that by contrast, he's a huge perfectionist and diva in his other role as a rock star. That's a very fun dichotomy. Arguably, this is the best case in terms of showing off his character. And yet, I really feel like they dropped the ball with how calm he is with Dreydan. It also doesn't really make a lot of sense. Oh, how about the case just straight up telling you at the end of the first day that Dreydan is the killer? Lamoureux claims she heard his voice, basically giving everyone in court the answer, and then the rest of the case just plays that answer straight instead of making it a red herring. Why the hell would you do that? I wasn't even fully suspecting him at this point. I was a little sus of this man in the yellow hat that kept popping up randomly. But I guess it's cool for the game to just tell me who the culprit is with no build-up. Okay, well that sounds good to me. Is Dreydan a good killer? No, not really. Is Machi a good defendant? Also, no. Do I like this case in spite of all these elements dragging it down? Kinda. See, what you gotta understand is that if a case has good vibes with an intriguing story that doesn't bore me, I can kinda stomach a bit of gaps in logic, as is the case here. The opening is incredible. The vibe at this rock concert is just electric, and actually getting to see the victim die before your eyes and hear his final words is a really exciting change of pace. Hey, wait, why didn't Romain let us just say it was the Penis Hair Man? He's the one who shot me. Why didn't he say Lamoureux was the witness instead of saying it was the siren? Genuinely, how was this case written and finalized the way it was? I still really like it though, not gonna lie. The twists and turns really intrigued me. Like the twist about who was really blind was pretty wild. And even if it was a bit out of nowhere, I actually liked the whole cocoon smuggling plotline as a way of explaining why all of this was happening. Machi may be a little frustratingly obtuse, but I genuinely love Lamoureux. She's a sweet, intriguing, and ultimately extremely important character who I cared about saving Machi for the sake of. I also like how this case lays the groundwork for the Grimoires before that really comes into play in Turnabout Succession. Arguably, this is one of the most plot-relevant third cases in the mainline series. Using the soundboard is a pretty neat change of pace. And yeah, you know what? The fact that you have to watch that hideous video of 3D orange clavier like 6 or 7 times in the last trial section honestly doesn't bother me that much. Believe me, I was mashing every single button hoping one of them would let me skip it. But at some point, I just couldn't help but laugh seeing this stupid, ugly thing for the third time in 5 minutes. It's so annoying that it wraps around and becomes hilarious again. Yeah, sorry if you wanted to hear me tear this case to shreds, but it honestly has a pretty intriguing story and a lot of elements I really enjoy. The bad things about it frustrate me too, just not quite as much as they seem to frustrate everyone else. I genuinely think this case has a lot going for it that people tend to ignore because its flaws are just so obvious and apparent. Like, it's hard to think of another case that just feels like it was written wrong to this extent. But I genuinely think there's enough of a balance between good and bad to make this a fine case. One that I can't really say is all that painful to go back to compared to some of the other clown shows. I guess I just like liking things. Sorry again.
A foolish samurai warrior.
I personally think there's a huge difference between a case that doesn't impact the overall plot and a filler case. Turnabout Samurai has very little actual relevance to the plot of the first Ace Attorney game, but you're out of your mind if you think this is a filler case. This is the moment in the series that really gets to define Maya as a character, not just as a sad, helpless defendant. This is the case that establishes the Maya we all know and love. The goofy, mischievous, steel samurai loving scamp who adds so much joy and levity to the murder mysteries in this series. I mean, you have your first ladder versus stepladder debate here. Now that's what I'm talking about. Peak fiction for sure. Nah, as an overall case though, Turnabout Samurai is pretty good. I think it absolutely suffers from being 3 days long for no real reason, especially when the investigation on the second day mostly consists of running errands for people and finding trading cards. God, I never realized how valuable the Magatama really is in terms of providing interesting gameplay. With that said, the story is pretty neat and the setting is super cool. This case establishes the entire Steel Samurai franchise, and it's fun investigating the studio where it all gets filmed. There's a few pretty fun characters like Penny Nichols and Cody Hackins. There's also other characters like Sal Manella and Windy Oldbag. I guess I'll say that Sal is not as bad as he could have been. And as for Oldbag, I probably would not thoroughly loathe her if this was the only time she ever appeared. Why does Ace Attorney love picking the worst characters to make into recurring faces? But yeah, she's kind of fine here. I think the culprit, Dee Vasquez, is a little forgettable. She especially just has the worst breakdown. But I do want to give a special shout out to that one moment where she calls her boys to kill you. I completely forgot about this. There's nothing else like it in the series. Just 4 random unique sprites appear on screen for like 30 seconds, and then they're never brought up again. Shout out to the boys. Truly some of the best Ace Attorney characters out there. Oh, but for real, shout out to Gumshoe. It's really funny how you and Mia decide Cody shouldn't take the stand, but then Gumshoe just comes in like, aha, I was listening the whole time. He's taking the stand. But then he does the same thing later in a more positive manner, saving you from the boys and catching Dee Vasquez in the act. He's a real driving force to the trajectory of this case in a way he rarely is elsewhere, and I think that's pretty neat. Overall, yeah, the setting is cool, the mystery is solid, the reveal that Jackhammer was actually attempting to murder Vasquez was pretty cool. The case is definitely too long and the investigations can be a real drag, but it's undeniably very fun and I was invested in the story the whole time. I don't think it ever veered too far off focus, and I feel like this is where the first game finally started to find its groove after 2 somewhat underwhelming cases before it. I mean, this is the case that had unnecessary feelings. Do I really need to elaborate more?
Kill a fucking Englishman and throw him in the sea.
After making a bad first impression on me and an even worse second impression, the Great Ace Attorney finally started to win me over with its third case, which honestly is the best one in the entirety of the first game. It kinda peaks here with the shortest case. Yeah, speaking of which, this case is indeed a tad shorter than the first case, which really doesn't bode well for said first case in terms of how overly long and drawn out it is. Sorry, I don't think I made it clear enough. I don't really like the first Great Ace Attorney that much. Oh well. This is that one case from it that I think is a complete success. The Adventure of the Runaway Room isn't the most exceptional case ever or anything, but it's a legitimately surprising experience that also serves as a great development in Ryunosuke's overall story. He and Susato make it to London, and they immediately get thrust into their first ever case in an official capacity. All they gotta do is defend the wealthy philanthropist Magnus McGillicuddy, who's just such a nice and generous guy. Look at him giving his money away willy-nilly. Aww, he's like the Mr. Beast of his day. Wait, that's not a good thing. Yeah, let's not beat around the bush here. Magnus McGillicuddy actually did it. This is the second time you defend a client who's actually guilty, but it doesn't feel like a rehash because it's set up and paid off way differently. The added context of this being your first experience in a British courtroom, witnessing firsthand how easily corruptible the law is here, is a very potent wake-up call for what a difficult time Ryunosuke is going to have finding the truth going forward. Having him immediately get railroaded into the defense of a guilty client is a great way to show off how green and incapable he still is. And the entire time you're defending this guy who's all smiles on the bench all the time, there's always a slight inkling that maybe he could have done it. You really go back and forth on that a lot. Or at least I did when I played the case for the first time. Until eventually, you're hit with pretty decisive evidence that nope, it was those two assholes on top of the omnibus who did it. Until doubt starts to creep in, courtesy of the prosecutor, Barak Van Zeeks. Oh yeah, this is his introduction, and it's a pretty good one. This guy is intimidating as all hell, but also, I just really want to point out to you guys, according to that one Ace Attorney TV video when Phoenix says his name, it's apparently pronounced Barack, like Barack Obama. Barack? What? Is that really how you say it? I'm just gonna call him Barack from now on. F it. Phoenix Wright said so. Yeah, so Barack tells you that the bloodstain that proves McGillicuddy's innocence wasn't there when he inspected it. Of course, he has no evidence of that, and you just have to take his word for it, but it does kind of line up with your inspection of the bus from earlier. This leads into an absolutely chilling scene where the mostly calm and friendly McGillicuddy breaks down. You know, like a culprit would, but he's the defendant about to be found innocent. Except, is he though? It's a truly wild last act of this case. Honestly, The Adventure of the Runaway Room is good for a lot of the same reasons Turnabout Trump is. It just does not go the way you're expecting it to go based on Ace Attorney conventions. With that said, I feel a little similarly towards it as I do for Turnabout Trump. It is a very simple, trial-only sort of case that doesn't have a lot of the benefits that come from longer and more fleshed out cases. Honestly, this feels more like a starter case than the actual starter case in this game, which I guess makes sense since this is your first time in Britain. Even so, there are a lot of cool elements that make this case pretty good outside of the great final reveal, like getting to meet the cool side character Gina for the first time, and getting a mini investigation via the omnibus where the crime took place, which is actually brought into the courtroom. It's pretty unique compared to other cases. Parts of it could feel a bit standard, like I don't remember a thing about these other witnesses, other than the omnibus driver being named Beppo, which is funny. Shout out to Beppo. But aside from some standard elements, it's never bad or dull, and it all just builds and builds to an amazing conclusion, with an equally amazing and chilling last cutscene that perfectly establishes why Barack Obama over here is called the Reaper. Overall, I really like The Adventure of the Runaway Room. Both it and Magnus McGillicuddy's great character in general are the only things that really stuck out in my mind about this first game for the past 4 years. Sorry guys, I promise, I like the second one a lot better.
'Cause the end always justifies the means.
Oh, and you guys thought Turnabout Serenade was my biggest guilty pleasure on this list. I mean, it still kind of is, but a definite second place that I derive way more pleasure from, perhaps ironically, is Turnabout Academy. Honestly, I loved this case the first time I played it, and was pretty shocked to see that it's a very divisive one. Then I thought about it more, and yeah, no, that makes sense. The problems with this case especially presented themselves upon replay. But hear me out, this case is genuinely kind of good. The Law Academy setting is very unique, and the characters are absolutely wonderful. The stealthy cardboard box wearing Miriam Scuttlebutt is super fun, and I especially can't get enough of that main trio. Juniper is a bit plain and generically nice, but I don't dislike her or anything. And the slack is far picked up by Robin Newman and Hugh O'Connor. You know, funny story with Robin. The first time I played this case and saw this masculine dude get really excited to wear feminine clothes and lament the fact that he couldn't be as pretty as Juniper, I was genuinely impressed. Like, wow, the Ace Attorney writers are tackling gender dysphoria in big 2013 when this game came out. That's honestly really cool. And then I thought about it and realized, wait, that doesn't add up. I don't think these devs would be that progressive at that point in time. And that's when it hit me, oh, Robin is literally just a cis girl pretending to be a boy. A little disappointing, but still a fun twist. And it's still really nice how you help Robin become her authentic self. I like how the big equivalent secret for Hugh is that he's a 25-year-old man who pretended to be an 18-year-old genius. That's just kind of silly. Overall, I love this trio. Their friendship is genuinely really heartwarming, and the way they all support Athena at her lowest point in the trial is great. Oh yeah, Athena! Guys, you'll never believe this. You actually get to play as her in this case. Phoenix doesn't swoop in halfway through and steal it from you. It's all Athena with Apollo as her assistant. And I love Athena, so this is a boon. Plus, it's Clavier, guys! He's back! Doesn't really have a huge role in this case. I kinda wish they used him more, but he's here. Also, Trucy has a whopping 4 lines. I counted. There's a ton of other details I like here. Like, it's fun how the body was disguised as a statue of Phoenix Wright doing the objection pose, and Athena has to try and mimic that pose, while also saying maybe the most out-of-pocket line in the entire series to Apollo. But yeah, I just like how the iconography of the series, these things that have always been there, like the objection pose and Phoenix's hairdo, actually play a role within the narrative of this case. I like how the whole Hugh O'Connor, you a goner thing was just a red herring. It felt like a natural conclusion to come to and didn't come across as a waste of time after the fact. I like when Simon just goes out for a stroll because he gets bored. I like when Bobby Fulbright sticks his head out the window. Genuinely, this case is just so fun. It's like they were trying their hardest to make up for how few interesting things there are in the Monstrous Turnabout, and just threw double the amount of fun moments in this one. This case sounds really great. Why'd I say it was a guilty pleasure? I don't know, man. I guess I must have spread misinformation there. But, you know, the ends justify the means, particularly in this dark age of the law that we all live in. Did that make any sense to you at home? If you answered no, then congratulations. You've discovered the biggest problem with Turnabout Academy. You see this guy? His name is Aristotle Means. And boy oh boy, he sure does love to keep saying how much the ends justify the means over and over in this case. And his students repeat it too. You see, this is bad because he's teaching them that securing victory is more important than finding the truth. And you should pursue any means to justify those ends. For the ends do justify the means. Especially for him, Aristotle Means. I'm gonna be honest, this guy is so unsubtle and so poorly written that he kind of wraps around into being the funniest Ace Attorney character. My friends and I have the most ironic obsession with Aristotle Means. Like, he's our equivalent of what Quercus Alba is for a lot of other fans. I mean, come on. This is all he talks about. And his students will constantly talk about the ends justifying the means too, even when it doesn't make sense. Surely they should be doing more immoral shit, but instead they do the tamest possible things and then repeat the ends justify the means catchphrase again and again. It's one of the worst cases at telling and not showing in the entire series. Oh, and that's not the only thing wrong with Means. I'm gonna make a bold claim and say that he is the most obvious killer in the entire series, besides the ones who were told to you right at the start. I mean, come on. This guy is literally talking about how we should do immoral shit and ignore the truth in order to get the verdict we want. That is his entire character. And also, look at him! The minute he flashed that horrible grin at me at the very beginning of the case, I knew it was him. There literally was never any doubt in my mind throughout the entirety of the rest of the case. I would have genuinely been shocked if the culprit was literally anyone else. And the fact that Athena and Apollo never suspect him at any point, despite the fact that he has a clear conflicting ideology to the victim, is ridiculous. Wake up! It is Means! It's always been Means and you know it! As much as I love this case, I really can't deny how poorly written all this ends justify the means and dark age of the law business is. Again, show the students going to really unscrew unscrupulous lengths to get what they want. It's like they were afraid to make the main trio unlikable. So then, I don't know, have Miriam Scuttlebutt be the more nefarious student who takes Means' teachings to heart. It just feels like everyone in this case is a big goofball, while the most obvious motherfucker is standing there the entire time, grinning at you and talking about his evil ideology. And it's like, why are we wasting our time on Hugh O'Connor? It's not him! Come on now! Fortunately, Means goes from being a so bad he's good character to an actually pretty fun villain once he turns into this Spartan teacher. I love the random shit he writes on the chalkboard, and the animation of him throwing chalk at you, which would have gone hard on the 3DS. Overall, this case is pretty notably flawed, and I can't call it top tier or anything, but it's a sentimental favorite of mine. I had a blast with it the first time I played it, and I continue to have a blast with it to this day. It's like the Spider-Man 3 or Revenge of the Sith of Ace Attorney cases. There are some ridiculous, baffling writing decisions you can't help but laugh at, but once you accept that, you come to realize that there's also a lot of legitimately great stuff to it. This case is never boring. It's always either hilariously incompetent or genuinely compelling. They could never make me hate you, Turnabout Academy. I guess, ultimately, what they say is true. The ends really do justify the means. Once again, color me shocked that the Layton crossover delivered an absolute banger worthy of reaching the upper echelons of this particular list. I'm pretty sure the Golden Court is commonly regarded as the best case in this game, but even then, I don't remember it being this good. It starts out a lot like the previous case, where you have to deal with testimonies regarding the character's positions and what items dropped on the ground first. But the good news is, this case actually realizes that it would be boring as shit if that was what the entire case consisted of. So it gradually blossoms into a shockingly, dramatically potent story worth telling. Before we get to that though, the general setup for this case is easily the most interesting in the game so far. Professor Layton has been turned to gold, meaning he can't bail you out like he did last time. And Maya is accused of being the witch who did this to him. Yeah, I complained about this being a tired development in the Rite of Turnabouts, but honestly, it's not really an annoyance here. Sometimes I even kind of forget that Maya's the defendant, since a good chunk of this case is uncovering the mystery behind a related murder 3 months ago. This murder is where the real heart of the story is, featuring one of, if not the most sympathetic culprits in the series, Jean Greyerl. Her backstory is incredibly tragic. Her reading her master's letter and realizing she was wrong to distrust him is genuinely heartbreaking. It's also really something how this case depicts a suicide and a suicide attempt with a shocking level of maturity. There are times where this game really impresses me with what it can do dramatically, in ways that I don't typically see from other games in this series. But this case also does a great job at giving us levity. Like Amir returns and he's just as funny as ever, stealing Layton's gold arm and pawning it off to get rich. You also cross-examine a parrot again, which sure could be seen as a little been there done that, but it is a good way to let Layton only fans know that this is what they're missing out on in the wacky world of Ace Attorney. It's also very funny that the parrot's name is Cracker. And there are a few misfires, like this bard Birdley who owns the parrot really does not need to be on the stand once you're done talking to his bird. And yet he just sticks around the entire time and doesn't add anything. I guess he does have a very cunty stance when you see him from behind at the witness stand, so that's worth something, I suppose. The male woman lady could also be a bit much at times, but overall, this is a very well-paced and well-balanced case in terms of tone. I haven't even mentioned all the neat ways it expands the lore of the game's magic system, or how Luke is one of the initial witnesses testifying against Maya, since he genuinely believes she turned the professor to gold. It's a perfectly understandable conclusion for a little kid to come to, especially since he doesn't really know Maya that well at this point in the game. It made a ton of sense, and I'm glad the game was brave enough to briefly put him into an antagonist role, before he eventually rejoins the defense team. Yeah, overall, I don't know what to say. This case genuinely shocked me with how riveting it was, both when I first played it, and on this replay. It also helps that it ends on the single most shocking moment possible. Just, oh man, you gotta give this game a try if you can track down one of the 50 physical copies in existence.
Back from the dead, assholes!
Man, Greatest Attorney sure knows how to kill it with their third cases, don't they? The return of the Great Departed Soul is incredibly engaging from start to finish, offering a very unique storyline with a ton of fun and legitimately dark and creepy elements on top of it. It really runs the full gamut of what an Ace Attorney case can do. And while I don't necessarily see it as one of the series' all-time greats, I mean, it's still pretty great. Ace Attorney.
Shut the fuck.
The whole plot where you have to defend a quirky scientist who insists his mystical teleportation device really works is unique and enjoyable. It fits the overall vibe and mystery of the case a lot better than Time Travel did in Turnabout Time Traveler. I'm a little mixed on Hairbrain himself. I mean, we literally just had a hyperactive goofball client in the previous case with Soseki. And while Hairbrain is far toned down and more likable than Soseki, I mean, it still just feels a little repetitive. Like, these are the only kinds of clients you can defend in this game. I don't know. At least Hairbrain constantly undermining us in court makes a lot of sense, since he doesn't care what happens to him, as long as his scientific secrets stay under wraps. There's also a ton of other great details in the first half of this case. Like Herlock having a subplot where he's broke as f*** and needs to make money by pretending to be a wax sculpture at a museum. Or the random little bohemian boy and Italian balloon salesman witnesses who show up in court to quirkily testify and then just never appear again. Silly. I also love the development of Gina becoming a detective under Gregson. Getting to work with a novice and see her learn the job right before your eyes is so cool. The case is pretty solid in its first half, but it really gets great in the second half, piling on a sinister mystery regarding a serial killer known as the Professor. Seeing how that case and the wax figures play into the main mystery you were hired to solve is really satisfying. I got legit chills from the way Two Spells described her mission to capture the likeness of the corpse of the Professor. I like the culprit and his odd robotic movements and mannerisms a lot. I especially love that scene during the investigation where they break into his office and find a pipe bomb, and Ryunosuke doesn't even know what a pipe bomb is. Even apart from that, something about this quintet of idiots, Ryunosuke, Susato, Herlock, Gregson, and Gina, all stumbling into this room together and accidentally cornering the culprit, it just felt very satisfying. This is the case where the ensemble cast of this duology finally really clicked for me, in the same way as the original trilogy cast. Unfortunate it took this long since my time with them was almost over at this point, but what are you gonna do? Even Barack really starts to warm up to you at this point, going so far as to sit you down in court and finally explain to you why he's so racist. How nice of him. This was a wonderful case. I think my only other real issue with it is, you know how I talked about the culprit earlier? I kinda sorta lied. He's not the culprit technically. He's the guy that made this entire murder plan, and yet the actual killer was this other lady who we don't spend a lot of time with beforehand. Within the context of just this case, I genuinely feel like this was kind of unnecessary. I mean, if it had led to a more substantial and mind-blowing reveal, like they seem to be implying it was, then I would have been down for it. But again, it didn't really feel like it needed to be here within the context of just this case. I feel like she could have benefited from a little more screen time and build-up at the very least. Overall though, this case rules. It's unbelievably fun, with a ton of mystery and suspense at every turn. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention Kazuma comes back. Honestly, it's not really that important to anything else going on in this case. And yet it's partially what the case is named after. That's kinda funny. Easiest decision of my life. I don't know how you can possibly make the argument that Turnabout Legacy isn't the best third case in the entire series by a landslide. It's kind of miraculous how cool and unique it is from a structural perspective, and how basically everything about it works. Every single character in the case, both old and new, is enjoyable. Yes, even Larry. This is honestly his best appearance since the first Ace Attorney game. He's pretty fun here. But on top of him, you got the immensely sweet Judy Bound, the astoundingly callous and overconfident Carmelo Gusto, and honestly my favorite character introduced in this case, Delicia Scones. The fact that she does not age in 18 years is so funny, and those stupid ass nicknames she gives to every character just crack me up. Oh my god, what a delight. Every character here has some unique and crazy motivation you just don't see very often in the series. I mean, a pharmacist entering a confectionery competition for the sake of winning a cookbook with a bunch of formulas for her employers to use? Kooky. The fact that this is a murder revolving around a desserts competition also really excites me as a massive sweets enjoyer. It's really fun seeing how a bake-off can rattle these people enough for one of them to commit murder, and then go about hiding the body in the most creative way. It blew my mind when I figured out where it was. I mean, it's not every day it takes 18 years for a body to be discovered. Oh, speaking of which, I guess I neglected to mention the defining attribute of this case, huh? You play as Gregory Edgeworth for half of it. This was his final case, the one he gave a penalty to Von Karma on, which resulted in his death.
Excelsior's winner retroactively appears in the first Ace Attorney game because of this. A lot of people tend to fixate on the admittedly pretty mind-blowing fan service here, but I'm more so impressed with the fact that the actual case itself is cool and interesting enough to really live up to its legacy. Its turnabout legacy, Waka Waka. I will admit, one minor issue I kinda have with the structure of jumping back and forth in time is that I always get really into that first segment with Gregory, and then when it cuts back to Miles, it's just a little bit less interesting than what was going on in the past. And I kinda wish we could get back to Gregory already. Don't get me wrong, the Miles stuff does get really good as it goes on. And even at the beginning, I mean, Eustace Winter is here, you can't say that about the Gregory segments. But overall, despite this minor nitpick I have, the structure of this case is genius. Father and son working 2 decades apart to solve the same murder, all as Eddie Fender supports you both. It's an incredibly emotionally resonant case, not just for that beautiful ending cutscene that gets me every time, but because of seeing how far Judy is willing to go for her father figure, Samson Tamatoa. It really stings knowing such a sweet, innocent man was wrongfully locked up for 18 years due to Von Karma's despicable tactics. And damn it, Judy is such a fantastic and interesting character when you learn more about the lengths she'll go to in order to catch the true culprit. Delicia is still my favorite character in the case though, sorry, she's too funny. Oh, and don't even get me started on Gusto. He's admittedly not as present throughout the whole thing as I would have liked, but he more than makes up for that by having one of the rawest final cross-examinations. I mean, he just straight up admits to it, laughing about it in the process since the statute of limitations makes him untouchable. That goes unbelievably hard. What a despicable villain. Taking him down through a variety of loopholes is one of the most satisfying ways to catch a culprit in any of these cases. There are so many other wonderful things I could note, like Larry's honestly really good drawings that turn out to be very helpful to the case, or just the fact that this case has an incredible vibe to it. You never want to leave this candy-coated wonderland with these delightful characters who mostly all care about each other. This case is kind of the anti-Turnabout Big Top. It's an absolute delight through and through, and a pretty strong contender for the best non-final case in the series. I haven't run all the numbers yet, but right now, it doesn't really seem like anything's gonna beat it for that title. So congratulations to this case for earning its Turnabout legacy and then some. Alright, that's all the third cases. See, that wasn't so bad. Well, I don't really feel like ranking the fourth cases since some of those are final cases and some aren't. So I think next time, I'm just gonna come back with one big ranking of every case, including the ones I've already talked about in these first 3 videos. It's gonna be a long one and it'll probably take a while, but, you know, I'll get to it eventually. Maybe. We'll see. Good night, Themis Legal Academy.